Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to Simply Drawing with Everett. I'm broadcasting live tonight on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And welcome to you all. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I'm broadcasting live from Chesapeake, Virginia, in the studio tonight with my wife, Gloria.
Welcome.
And she'll be checking the broadcast and also on the chat room. The chat room's live. So if you have comments or questions, put them down there and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now tonight I'm going to do another drawing exercise, but it's going to be kind of special, I think. I think you'll like this. But I'm asking for a little help out there for the viewers. I'm going to be drawing on my regular pad on my close-up camera. And if you can't see it, I need to know if you have a problem. You'd like to see it a little bit closer. So just give me some feedback. If you would enjoy seeing a more close-up view, I leave it a certain voice so you can see everything going on. So give me some feedback if you care to help me out. Okay, so what I'm going to do tonight, let's go to my close-up camera. Now tonight we're going to do drawing with pen and ink, and pen and ink is one of my favorite techniques to use, and because in pen and ink you can be so expressive with the instrument. I'm going to show you a couple things that I use here, a couple of tools. This is a Sharpie, a black Sharpie, and it's the ultra fine point. And what I do is, you can draw lines, vertical lines, cross lines, and it gives you a very good, strong. If you're looking for a dark area, the Sharpie is the way to go. Also, if you're, say, following a contour, let's say you were doing something rounded, something with a round shape. And I also like it for stripling. If I was going to do color in an area where I just wanted to show texture, or show a little tippling technique, that's what stipple is, okay? So stipple, I'll pronounce that stipple. The stipple technique is you just a color in the area just by hitting the tip. So a Sharpie is a very nice instrument to start with to get a nice dark black color. And I use that quite often in some of my drawing. Now here's another kind. This is a Micron PN. Now PN stands for plastic nib. And this has a very fine line. You can see there how thin that is. So a Micron black PN is a nice fine point. It gives you a nice sharp edge. Also I have here I just have an old fountain pen filled with ink. And I've had fountain pens all my life, and I love to draw on those also. So there's a fountain pen. But the one that's really a lot of fun with is what I call a dip pen. Now, if you haven't seen some of the old-fashioned movies and so forth using the old dip pen, but that's fantastic artwork. But you need a source of ink, which is an inkwell, and then you dip it in. That's why it's called a dip pen. And this gives you some fantastic free motion. And what I use this one for, I'll tell you what I use this one for, is I use it for my scribble. If I'm scribbling something, and you'll see me using that tonight, a little bit of scribbling, then I use the dip pen. Because it gives me a nice free flow of shapes and color, and shapes and styles and so forth. So this one here is a dip pen. Now, also you can use if you just have a pen. This is a gel pen that I use for my art, and also this is my everettswatercolors.com pen that I put in my shipments through on my website. So you go on my website, everettswatercolors.com, and every order I send out, I send a self-stamped everestwatercolors.com pen. Okay, and here's another one I use. This is a fine, and what I recommend, if you buy a pen or looking at pens, I would go with a fine point. Fine points give you much more control, and you get much more detail with a fine point. Now this happens to be a regular ink pen, but you can use ballpoint pens or whatever gives you a black ink, okay? So those are the kind of marks you do. Now, when you really want to get at it, I was playing here before tonight's class, and when you get a piece of paper and start scribbling and start using the pens, this is the kind of results you'll get. Just playing with the pen, getting the contrast down and so forth, and shapes and angles, etc. You have a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get into my little demonstration tonight. When I move on a here's another pointer for you. When I do a drawing, I say using ink. So I've got a clipboard here, but I got a cardboard background. It gives me a little more sturdier baseline to work on. And for example, if I was drawing something like this, this is a close-up of a tree. Close-up of a tree. And I started this one out already. You can see here, if you just make the marks on there, I use this Sharpie with this. Mostly straight lines, but then you go in and make little, if you're looking at the picture, you want to do little contours of the bark and so forth, and little circles and dots. That's for the moss. And if you're making grass, you can do little long strokes and so forth. So you can have a lot of fun just picking up a photograph and just start drawing. Okay. So this is there's an example, a free example. There's a tree, and there's a quick little sketch in using a Sharpie to get those shapes. Okay, but I'm going to get a little more serious now. And I've got a photograph here I took over the weekend. And this tree right here, there's actually two together. There's two trunks here together. This tree right here is the one I'm going to draw tonight. Forget these two over here. You have to have to look at it and say, okay, which one? I'm going to draw that tree, draw those two trees right in there. Now, before I start, if you'll notice, it was a cloudy day. There was no clouds in the sky, and it wasn't a blue sky. It was a cloudy day in the morning. So what I do before I get started is, if I want to do a background like that, then I take a plain piece of paper, and I take. This happens to be a hockey brush, and I'm using Payne's Gray in my watercolor, and I would go in and I'd put just a light wash across the paper. Okay, that gives me a little background color. Okay, and let that dry. It's still wet now, but let that dry. It gives you a background color. And I've already done that. This is this paper right here. I've already done the background color for the drawing tonight. So that's why it's not pure white paper. I already did a background wash with the Payne's Gray paint, watercolor paint, and a hockey brush. So I'm going to leave the photograph over here. And the reason I asked you in the beginning whether you can see it, make sure you can see what I'm doing. And if you want to see it up close, I'll bring it up. But if sometime in the future, if you want me to get much closer, I can do that. But I'd rather have it this way. You can see the photograph and me working at the same time. Okay, I'm going to start out with a Sharpie, and I'm going to get the main shapes in. Here we go. Make sure I get the right paper here going. Okay, there's this tree. I'm going to start with this tree off here to the left. Okay, it's got a little bit of a tilt to it. It's not straight up and down. It's got a little bend to it, and it goes up and it has a little notch. It has a little curves to it, not straight up and down. So I'm trying to get in the edge, get in the actual shape of this tree before I go any further. I'll go about this far right there. I stop right there. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and put the what I call the width in it. So now I'm going to go ahead and add. It's not very thick. as far as the photograph goes, so I'm going to kind of stay that way. So I'm just using straight lines. I'm just getting the curves, getting a general idea of the shape here. There's some bumps and bruises here on the tree, kind of picking out some of those. Not everything, not has to be well defined. Okay, now I'm going to use just use the straight line, kind of up and down, to fill in the shape. To fill in the shape. Okay. Now there aren't too many limbs on this. There's a couple notches here. There used to be limbs that were probably cut off. So I'll start that. That's the trunk here that I have. That starts that first tree. Okay. Now the tree over here on the right side of that. There's another that leans a little bit to the right. So I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to get the one side. This goes up here, and then there's a branch that goes out over here. I'll make a note to myself. There's a branch there. Then this one curves to the left, right here. Then it goes straight up. And it has another curve to it, and then it goes on out to the end. Okay, I'll leave that about right there. Okay, then I'll get the branch in. There's a branch over here. So I draw this like I'm doing anything else. I get the main shapes of the design. The main shapes. And this comes up here, and it's going to go out. And it has a nice curve to it. And then it has another one out here. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill that one in. So I'll fill in the right side of that. And now I'll fill in the shape. So I'm just kind of going up and down with the marker. So to get the first part of the drawing in, I'm using the Sharpie to capture the main shape, the main contour, and get an established drawing here in ink of this particular. Now we'll get this branch in now. It goes out here and it has a curl to it. Goes up. Then it has a little bend to it up here on the end. Okay, get that in. And this branch here is a little larger. So now I'm adding more size, more shape now to the actual drawing. I'm getting the size of the limbs and so forth. Okay. 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 Then I'm going to kind of mark the baseline. This is where the ground is, the grass and so forth. So I can go ahead and make a line. This is more of the ground. Now, in my drawing, I'm also going to include, there's some bushes down here in the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of those in. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, I'll use the Sharpie again. I'll get started with this. Because my darkest colors are going to be using the Sharpie marker. And this has some sharp edges to it. There's a limb that comes down here to the bottom. And this has got a small trunk to it, so I can put that in. Small trunk, I'll put that in. All right. So that identifies that bush there. And then there's one over here to the left. There's another bush. Well, that one, I'm going to use another pen. I'm going to use my ink pen. I use what do you call this thing? This one here. So I'm using a scribble. So I'm just doing circular motions to get the shape in. And then there's some tall parts coming up here out of the this bush. And it's a little bit taller than this bush over here, so I'm going to move those up a little bit. Okay, move that up a little bit. So this fountain pen I have, an old fountain pen I've had for years, it's just full with ink. but it does a nice job on getting nice small marks. Okay. Okay. Now what I want to do now, for the background, where's my dip pen? I'm going to use the dip pen. There's some background trees here in the background. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to dip in the ink, and it'll give me a lighter mark. It won't be as thick as the Sharpie. The only disadvantage to a dip pen is you have to stop, pause, and reload the pen with ink. This one will go quite a long time before I have to reload. And I'll continue on with this background. These are background trees back here behind these bushes. And they're a little bit lighter, so I'm using the dip pen to get those in to show a lighter value. So you can see already with an ink pen or with any kind of a pen like the ink pen, it gives you a much more expressive way to draw. Now for some of the finer marks now up here, I'm going to move to the Micron. The Micron's got a very fine point. So I'm going to start with this first tree off here to the left, and I'm going to draw in that real tall. I'll take this off the paper here. A real tall, thin. You can see here I can get some really fine lines. Now this one here goes way up. This one here goes straight up here, and it bends over. It's a little bit taller than the other one. So for fine lines, you can't beat a Micron. This fine point. I'll come down to this limb here, and there's a lot of branches off of this one here. There's a lot of branches, small branches coming off this section here. Come down here, and there's some branches off here, small branches off here. So let me bring this up real close now. You can see so far, got the two trees. I'm working on the small branches, okay? And I'm using a Micron pen. Micron plastic nib, PN. And so there's lots of small branches on this tree. I'm going to get a picture of this one also in the springtime. You're going to see how many leaves this little tree has on it. So we'll keep track of this tree over the months ahead. And right now, the leaves have fallen off. But in the springtime, we're going to see a lot more coverage on this one. And we'll draw it with leaves the next time we take a look at it. When the spring line comes out. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back with a Sharpie, and I'm going to add in some more color, add more value. So I want these are my main trees, so I'm going to put more. Now I can use a cross stroke here, which is coming sideways, side to side. I can use circle, make a circle motion. I'm just filling in a lot of that area. I want these to be solid. Or more solid, I would say, more solid. So I can do cross strokes, left and right, up and down. I can do circles. Do a diagonal stroke. These all help fill in the space and make that item darker. And down here, especially these bushes, I want to get these much darker down here so they stand out. They should be darker than the trees in the background. They will be. So I'm using cross strokes, crisscross, left and right, up and down. Getting it darker and darker. Okay, then this one over here. Now I can use some scribble with the Sharpie pen. So I'm adding a little more value to this. So I'm adding a little more ink with the Sharpie because it's got more ink in the pen. And I'll get those dark sticks that are sticking up that are tall. Start separating that from the background. Okay, now I'm going to go back and I'll return to my fountain pen, and down here I'm going to go ahead and put in some grass. So we go ahead and put in some, this fountain pen just got ink in there, and you fill just like any other fountain pen. So up and down stroke, we'll do a little crisscross down here to show grass at the edge. And then the forward grass, I can just fill that in a little bit. Do some I'll do a crisscross, I'll do a horizontal stroke. These strokes you do, either horizontal or vertical, help fill in the, space. Okay. Let's see. I'll go back to the Sharpie again. Sharpie it adds more paint. More ink to the drawing.
We have a question.
Question, yes.
You using all these different pens for demonstration. Can you just use one pen to do the sketching?
Well, normally I use ones to get started, but then I may want to use it like I showed the finer one. You got different nibs in pens, and if you get a fine nib, then you can pretty well do a drawing with just one pen, which I've done several times. If you get too broad of a nib, like a medium or a large, then you can't get the fine detail that you can with a fine point. So as long as you have a fine point pen, you can pretty well do the whole drawing with just one pen. It's going to take you a lot longer to fill in some of the spaces. That's why I'm using the Sharpie here to fill in a lot of the blank spots. Okay. But this little Micron gives me that nice fine, which I can't get with a Sharpie, that nice fine detail of, say, the fine limbs up here on the. So I used the Sharpie to get the dark areas of the tree, trunks, and major limbs, and then I use the Micron to get the fine points. And also the background. And don't forget, I think this is one advantage here. This is such a, if you get a dip pen with a bottle of ink, you can really have a lot of fun, because it's just one of those things that when you fill it up with ink and you start drawing with it, it becomes very expressive. You can do a lot of motions with this one pen. You get curves, you can do circles. That's why it's good for handwriting. You can do all kinds of motion, you can do all kinds of figures with this particular pen here. The only disadvantage, you just have to reload it from the inkwell. That's why you have an inkwell. And also I have, usually when I'm doing something like this, I'll have a blotter. I have a piece of, just a regular paper towel. And here I can take off the extra ink if there is more ink on there, or I can blot the painting if it's too wet. But usually in a small drawing like this, the ink will dry very quickly. Let me take a photo. I'll look at the photograph now. Let's see if there's anything else I want to pick out. I've already. I can go in here and I can highlight some of these So really, you put a pen or a pencil in your hand, and you can draw almost anything with it. It doesn't matter. In fact, it's interesting to take one instrument like a ink pen and try to draw everything you would draw with a pencil, and take another pen, a different size or shape, and draw with that, and become familiar with the motions on the particular pen. This does nice grass also. The dip pen does a nice job on grass. This crisscross strokes at the bottom here will show tall grass and weeds. Up here it shows the limbs on the tree. This little demonstration page I had here in the beginning. What I was interested in is how you draw this. You can see how long I can go all the way across the page with just one load of ink. So one ink load of this dip pen before it starts to run out of ink. It's still going. There, I finally ran out of ink. So I did all those lines. I did all those lines with just one load of ink from the inkwell on this ink pen. Okay, and that's a lot of fun. I have more fun with the dip pens than I do with a regular pen. The only thing that's convenient about the Sharpie, or say a fountain pen or a regular ballpoint pen, is that the fact that they have a lot more ink in them, and you can just keep on drawing. But it's a lot of fun to play with a dip pen also. Also, I recommend also a plein air going out. I drew this sketch outdoors. In fact, here's the one I did outdoors. I'll show you the one I did outdoors. This is the one I just did here in the class. Hey, that's my demo right here. It's my demo. Now this is the one I did. This is the one I did live on site. I had two pens with me. I used the Sharpie and I used the Micron, and so that's the one I did on site, on location, looking at the picture, looking at the actual tree. This one I used using the photograph. Here I used the photograph to draw, and here I sketched it from the actual tree site right there. Okay, yeah, they look very similar. Okay, so let's go back to the main camera. Hey, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but I had some fun tonight. I love drawing with pens, pencils, of course, color pencils, watercolor pencils, paint brushes, whatever you want to draw with. But to me, an ink pen of any kind, whether it be a dip pen, whether it be a ballpoint pen, or whether it be a fountain pen, is a lot of fun and a lot of expression in the drawing. I think the flow of ink and the amount of changes you can make in the brush or the pen stroke makes it a very interesting way. You can get thin lines, a little thicker line the harder you press, and you get real fine lines by lighter you press. And so I would recommend that if you don't have a good ink pen or want to try it out, then try a new drawing out. Draw anything. A pen and ink works with still life. It works with outdoor life. It works with anything you want to draw, just like a pencil. So I'll be back again next week at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another drawing demonstration. I hope you'll join me then. And also I'll be back on Thursday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a little watercolor class demonstration. So on either one of those, you're welcome to come back and join me. And also my Facebook page, there is a, let's see, I got a close-up here. Overhead, main, overhead camera. Here we go. There's the, there's a QR code from my website, everestwatercolors.com, and you put your cell phone on that particular QR code and touch it, and it'll take you right to my website. Right to my website. Also, if you want to put a drawing on my Facebook page, there's my Facebook page, Everest Watercolors Art Group. Put your phone on that and touch the icon there for the phone, with the phone, and like taking a picture, and it'll take you right straight to my Facebook page. So both of those websites, website and Facebook site, are available for you to look at. So that concludes tonight's demonstration, and hope to see you next week. So you all stay safe, and bye.